Harmful gases, fumes, vapors, chemicals, oxygen-deficient atmospheres. All of these pose a threat to your respiratory system. In turn, this threat can lead to conditions ranging from minor irritation to disability to death. But there are instances where you must work in the vicinity of these potential threats. Respiratory protection is used to protect us from these threats. Respiratory protection ranges from a simple dust mask all the way up to SCBA. You need information and training on this type of equipment and the hazards involved before you attempt to use respiratory protection. Your organization will provide specific training, but this program is designed to give you some information about personal protection under adverse or hazardous conditions. Let's begin by talking about the basics of why the protection is needed. We all know that chemicals and hazardous materials may have an adverse effect upon your health, but the effect may not show up for years later after repeated or long-term exposure. If you drop something on your foot, you know right away. If you're exposed to a harmful chemical, you may or may not feel the ill effects for a long time, if ever. Some chemicals, such as chlorine, act quickly, so you know about that exposure immediately. But not all chemicals share this property. How do you become exposed to chemicals? One way is through inhalation or breathing. Breathing is a natural function, and we usually never think of how it happens. Our brain sends signals to the nerves and muscles in the lungs telling them to function. The diaphragm, a large muscle stretched across your abdomen, contracts to pull air through the nose, down your windpipe, and into the lungs. Once in the lungs, oxygen migrates into the bloodstream through the thin walls of tiny air sacs deep within the lungs. Through this process, toxic chemicals can end up in the lungs. But the lungs are only the point of entry. The liver, brain, kidneys, and central nervous system are all potential victims of chemicals. Yes, your body has natural defenses such as hair in the nose, tiny hair cells that line the respiratory system, and other similar structures, but they cannot defend against most chemicals. Gases are usually produced by some chemical process. Two common examples are hydrogen sulfide and carbon monoxide. Hydrogen sulfide is usually found in sewers or storm drains. Carbon monoxide gas is usually a byproduct of engine exhaust. Hydrogen sulfide smells like rotten eggs. Carbon monoxide is odorless and has no color. A big difference, and one you need to be aware of. Vapors are another hazard. They're the products of volatile liquids giving off vapors such as gasoline, paint, or solvents. Vapors can be flammable, explosive, and deadly. One of the problems that we all encounter is dust. Dust can be in the form of nuisance or hazardous dust. They float in the air and can enter your body through breathing, skin absorption, or through eating or drinking the residue created by the dust. Fumes occur during high heat operations such as welding or smelting. Mists are hazards found in operations such as painting, pesticide applications, or any area where liquids are set in motion in the air. There's one more: oxygen deficiency. Oxygen deficiency is simply a lack of oxygen in the area you are working, such as confined spaces. One thing these all have in common is they all are respiratory hazards. And respiratory hazards require respiratory protection. Effective respiratory protection is a joint effort involving employer and employee. The employer has the responsibility to determine the hazards of the job and to reduce or eliminate the hazards as much as possible. The employer also provides the respiratory protection program. The employee has the responsibility to follow company policies and procedures and wear all required personal protective equipment. The first step in a respiratory protection program is to have an examination by a physician to determine your fitness to wear respiratory protection. Also, if you have a beard or facial hair, you cannot safely wear respiratory protection, as the hair on your face will not allow for a proper fit of the equipment. Training is a very important part of the program. You need to know how to fit, inspect, clean, store, and how to tell when respirator cartridges need replacing. Proper training can mean the difference between proper protection and the alternative. What types of protection are available? There are many, and each has its own specific use. If you wear improper equipment, or you wear the proper equipment in an improper way, it can be the same as wearing no protection at all. You wouldn't do that, would you? I didn't think so.